Life. It's just one big story, isn't it?
Hi everyone, welcome to the Story Connection. I'm your host, Donna Wilberg. Well, everyone has a story, and whether it's truth or fiction, it needs to be told. And usually there's a story behind the story. So tonight we have invited author William Blaylock to talk about his book, Invisible. It's a story about post-traumatic stress disorder, and nobody tells it like he does. So welcome, Bill. So nice to have you on the show.
Gosh, thank you, Donna, for inviting me.
Well, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before you launch into your story about your story?
I suppose I could try that. I, like so many other people, was a non-believer in PTSD. I thought it was just a weak mind, or it didn't really exist, or it was just people whining about wanting something. But it wasn't until a friend pointed out to me at a family gathering one time that I actually had it. And that conversation kind of took place by him saying, well, how do you sleep at night? And do you have any recurring dreams? And things that I was experiencing. So from there, he said, well, geez, man, you've got it. You've got PTSD. And I still didn't want to believe that. But so I went ahead and I sought some help because of his encouragement. Mm-hmm. And then once I started to recognize and understand some about PTSD, that made me want to write about it and tell the story that none of us will ever tell, our families.
Well, it is a very silent, people suffer in silence with PTSD. And like you said, you know, it's something that not everybody understands. So talk about some of the symptoms that you were experiencing that you learned to live with.
Well, most people with PTSD don't sleep well, maybe 4 or 6 hours a night. And if they do, it's interrupted sleep. For years, I would wake up about 2:30 in the morning, and I would have to get up and go around and do what I call a perimeter check. And I would make sure that all the doors and windows were locked and everything was where it's supposed to be. And I'd try to do this without waking my wife. And so kind of sneaking around the house in the dark, you know, don't make any noise. So I just really felt like I was in a stealth mode. But you know, so lack of sleep, and then you're hyper vigilant, so you're always on edge, and you jump at noises, and you have to sit with your back to the wall. And when you go in public, it can really be a problem. So when you go to places, and you're always aware of where you're at, who's around you, what's behind you, and you're not usually comfortable in big groups of people either, even with people you know. So that's been a big problem, but I'm getting better with that.
You know, since you pointed that out in your book about not being able to, or people like to sit with their back to the walls, more and more men that I've noticed always kind of veer that way. And I've asked them, you were in the military, weren't you? Absolutely. You know, so it's funny, you know, never would have known that they had any issues with PTSD.
Yeah, I guess it's just something, I don't think we were taught that. It's just something you learn. It's better to be aware of what's in front of you.
Right, it's a protective thing. Interesting. So what did you do in between being in the service and now? What was your...
Actually, I did a lot of things. I drove truck, and I was in law enforcement. I was with San Francisco Police Department and San Jose PD, and then I retired out of El Dorado County. From El Dorado County, I was a correctional officer at the jail. But in between lots of other jobs, I attribute my lack of steady employment to my PTSD. But I was a survivor, or am a survivor of PTSD, and successfully so, that I was not terribly interrupted with my life because of it. I'm sure that my wife and children suffered from my experience some because of that, but I hope they aren't too traumatized.
Well, it's a matter of understanding it, you know, and if you're not understanding it yourself, I mean, you know that something's wrong, you know, but putting a name to it and understanding it and figuring out why. And there's a lot, it's actually a brain chemistry change that goes on.
Yes, there is.
So it's not just, you know, some little, you know, you were just a weak individual that couldn't cope. There's actually, it's brain damage.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Dr. Koga at my book signing pointed out in his talk how there is a physical difference in a brain with PTSD and that without PTSD. So I was interested to find that out as well, not just that I have it, but it's a condition. So
Yeah. Well, it kind of takes the shame away from it too,
Right.
because I know, you know, speaking to other men who were in Vietnam, a lot of them don't talk about it. For one, for two, you know, they won't admit to having any kind of residual effect from it.
Right. Well, it's the thing, you always have to man up, and nobody wants to admit that they've got a brain problem.
Yeah.
You know, well, yeah, I broke my arm, or I was shot in the leg or something, but nobody wants to say I was
Yeah.
screwed up in the head.
Well, right now, you know, with so many coming back from, you know, Iraq and in the different
Afghanistan.
places, Afghanistan, there's, you know, it's time to really bring this out in the
Yes.
open and talk about
It's
it.
a big problem for America now, not just treating it, but the financial responsibility behind that. So,
Well, can you talk a little bit about that? Are there more services available now for it?
yes, there's a lot of things. It's not just the Veterans Administration, but there's a lot of organizations, the American Legion and the VFW and Wounded Warrior Project, and there's a whole lot. If you Google PTSD or help for PTSD, you'll get a list of probably 100 organizations that all have an outreach to either help clothe or help home, help house, or just financial support for family members, or actual physical help of the veteran himself.
That's great.
And of course, it's women with PTSD too.
Yeah. So you wrote this book. Tell us about the book.
Thank you. The book happened, like I said, when I found out that I had PTSD and started getting some education in it. The movie Platoon was always my favorite movie because it spoke to me with those characters. So I thought to myself one day that, well, somebody needs to tell what those guys are doing now and what happened to them after the trauma they experienced. So I started writing that down, and then with the help of a lady that I met who offered to be my writing coach, found out that I can't write someone else's story, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't do that. So then it became personal, and she encouraged me to tell them my story, and with her asking the questions, and then I wrote about it. So then it became a memoir. But I hope that when people read my book, they won't think that they're reading about me, that they will see themselves or their loved one in it, and allow them to go get some help just from telling my story.
Yeah.
Because we all act the same way.
Yeah. Well, just, you know, reading your book, like I said, I started to look around me at you know, men that I knew that were in the military. I don't know very many women that were in the military back then, and but even now, very few that have been in combat like you had. And so it was very enlightening.
Good. I'm glad
Yeah.
you felt that.
Very enlightening. So, you wrote the book, and how did you feel about it once you were done?
I felt relieved.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big burden kind of off my chest finally. So it was out there and told. Now, being an author is a whole new experience because now I'm having to come and speak to people.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. I've spoken to the Marine Corps League of Folsom, and then even my original book signing, I had to get up in front of a lot of people and talk with a microphone. So that was kind of scary for me. I don't do that. In law enforcement, I could bark out orders when necessary, but I don't. This isn't so cool.
Well, it's hard to get up there and tell your story.
It
You
is.
know, it's because you don't know how people are going to react. But
Exactly.
it's a very valuable story that needs to be told.
Thank you.
And
I think so.
did a great job on the book.
Thank you.
Great job. So now that you've got the book, we've got some pictures to show from the book.
Oh, great.
And you can talk about the story behind the pictures.
Okay. Well, there is some stories.
Okay. So this one here.
Well, that's me in the background there, resting on my head on my hand. Dennis is on the left. He's one of the characters that I talk about in the book. And in the center there, Cuba. The guy on the right, I still can't remember his name, so I can't. But Cuba is our squad leader. He's our sergeant, and I was the gunner, and Dennis was a cannoneer. He loaded the guns, and what a great group of guys. But it wasn't until after I had written the book that I found out that Dennis had passed, so I never got to make contact with him. This is a little boy named Lan, and when we were in the Central Highlands, as you can probably tell from the background, or up in I-Corps, just south of the DMZ. Lan came out one day walking down the road, and just a little kid in torn shirt and shorts, and we instantly fell in love with him, and so we would give him C rations, and he'd smoke our cigarettes and drink our Coca-Cola.
Oh my gosh.
But this poor little boy is probably around 8 years old, and in his village, the Viet Cong came in and they killed his parents while making he and his little sister watch, and then they killed his sister. And he was the sole survivor of his little family, but of course he lives in a village of people. But
Yeah. You know, not only is PTSD affecting the soldiers, but it's also affecting the people that are victims of war, you know, which we don't hear a whole lot about either.
no,
Yeah.
they need some care too.
Yeah.
That's a picture of our equipment. That's an M42A1 Duster, it's a nickname Duster. The enemy called it the Fire Dragon because it could put out an awful lot of firepower, 240 rounds a minute, and it was actually an anti-aircraft gun that we used it on ground troops because Vietnamese didn't have any Air Force.
Oh my goodness.
But good superimposed there of the book over. That's a picture of me at Christmas. My parents would send a care package about once a month, and so, well, of course, my mom found a way to stick a little Christmas tree in a box and send it to Vietnam.
Wow.
And so that's Christmas 1968 in Vietnam, and that was in front of our bunker at OP Bin at the Rock Pile, Vietnam.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of interesting. Not only is your story interesting, but you've woven in a lot of information, or you've given us hints and clues to what the condition's all about and how you were, you know, conditioned, transformed.
Mm-hmm.
What would you call it?
I guess it's just survived.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's funny things too. It's like a chapter is war isn't always hell, because there are fun things that happen in life and funny stuff. So I hope people will find some enjoyment out of that. But yeah, you just do what you have to do to get by. And one of the pictures that didn't get put up, but we had to build a bunker for us to live in. And this, none of us were construction engineers, but anyway, so we had this kind of a hole dug out of the side of a hill. And from that we were supposed to build a bunker. And so we got some ammo cans and filled them with dirt and stacked them up to make a center pillar and put some 2x4s across it and some corrugated steel. And we were filling sandbags and tossing them up to this one kid. And all of a sudden, he's, oh, and that wall ceiling collapsed, and he just rode that thing down like a surfboard. But so yeah, some funny stuff too.
Yeah.
But the bad stuff.
Yeah. Well, stories are, you know, they're endless in a situation like that. So, what was it like once you put it all together? How did you feel about putting it out there and, you know, just, you know, being published? Did you have a hard time?
I did. Publishing became a bigger feat than I thought. For almost 2 years after what I thought was completed the book, I was sending out query letters to publishers and literary agents, and you know, lots of rejection notices and a lot of no responses. But that was what I was told to expect, so that wasn't too hard to accept. But then I went to a meeting here locally of the Northern California Publishers and Authors Association, and it's a group of people who are writers, and hopefully published writers, but also publishers, and it's of the Northern California area specifically. And that's where I met my future publisher. And after one of the meetings, I went up and talked to Ted Witt of Pretty Road Press. And I said, well, here's what I've done. And he said, well, that sounds great. Why don't you send me, email me the manuscript. So I did. And a week later, I called him and I said, hello, Mr. Witt, this is Bill Blaylock. Oh, yes, you sent me the story about PTSD. So I was shocked that he recognized my name and knew what I had sent him. So that was pretty exciting. And then it wasn't but about a month later, we had negotiated a signed contract, and he's published my book, and here we are. So
wow.
Then it went really smooth. But becoming published is a very daunting task.
Yes.
But you yourself are now published.
I'm on my way.
Yes.
I'm on my way. One of the things that I appreciate about writers is that there's so many stories to be told and to document these, and you've got other stories. I know you do.
Maybe.
Yeah. But, you know, like I said, whether it's fact or fiction, and reading something that's fact and that has happened to somebody so compelling, and it makes us reflect on our own lives, you know, and what we're going through, and appreciate, you know, a lot of what we have. So what else would you like to tell us about your story?
Gosh. I think it's an easy read. I've had so many comments that people said they thought that they would read it over the next few weeks and then found out that they couldn't put it down, and they read it in one sitting. That's pretty exciting to me. It lets me know that I did a good job of setting up the characters.
Yeah, you're a good writer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it is an easy read. I wrote it so that people wouldn't have to be college educated to read it, but I didn't mean to dumb it down by any means. It's just there to tell the story so that people will understand why Johnny isn't the same now kid that he is when he left. So that was my purpose for writing it, and I've already found out that one fellow who read it has recognized himself and is now seeking help at the VA, so I'm pretty excited by that.
Yeah. So is this your platform now? Is this you know, now that you've got the book finished, is it your desire to really get this illness looked at and
Yes,
more
if
light
we
shed
can
on
bring
it?
more attention to the public and let unfortunately, I guess almost everyone in America has probably heard of PTSD or now knows someone who suffers from it. And that's a shame that it has to be that way. But
Yeah.
that's just what trauma does to you, and war is trauma. So, unfortunately, a lot of people have PTSD, and they're not going to get it from the military, and so they don't have that support system of the government helping them. But you can get PTSD from a traffic accident or natural disasters. And so there's a lot of reasons for acquiring physical or mental disability of PTSD.
Yeah.
Yes, letting people know, getting the word out there, and helping as many as I can. And I share my royalties with the American Legion and the VFW, so it does go to help other veterans. I turn it back around.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Thank you.
Well, we've got some information about you. You want to?
You do?
We do.
What
I
did you
think
do?
we do. Do we have
Okay.
information about Bill where people can
Well, yes,
contact
it's
you?
William
Yeah.
Blaylock, author, Invisible, PTSD Stealth Attack on a Vietnam War Veteran. The book website is invisibleptsd.com. We have a Twitter account at Survivor PTSD where you can reach me, and also I'm on Facebook at William Blaylock.
Awesome. Well, let's hold up a copy of this book because it's.
Okay.
I want everybody to see what it looks like. Where can we find your book?
It's available at Amazon.com, and it's in ebooks and paperback.
Great. That's super. It's a source of healing.
Oh, yes.
You know, for a lot of people. So.
It was for me. I hope it would be for others.
Yeah. So, in the next few minutes, well, first let's give some information about the Story Connection.
The Story Connection airs the second and fourth Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our companion show, Paranormal Connection, airs the first and third Thursdays of each month. Each episode repeats the following Friday at 1:30 p.m. and Saturday at 5:30 a.m. Watch these programs online at the same airtimes by going to accesssacramento.org and clicking Watch 17. In the Sacramento region, you can see us on Comcast Channel 17 and on AT&T Channel 99. You can find previously aired shows on the Story Connection YouTube channel. For information on upcoming shows and previous Story Connection guests, go to storyconnectiontv.blogspot.com. You can contact us at storyconnectiontv@gmail.com, and don't forget, find us on Facebook, become a friend, and become a fan.
In the few minutes that we have left, what would you like to share with the audience? Any more of your story, or?
Oh, I don't really want to talk anymore about me, but I hope that people will recognize to treat it with a little more respect than I offered some people before I recognized it was a real problem. And that just a little compassion for your fellow man, I think.
Now, I don't know how far we can get into this, but we did touch on the subject of a lot of Vietnam vets are roaming the streets with PTSD,
Oh, yeah.
homeless,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that never did get the help. You know,
No.
there's more help available for the new, you know, incoming
There is.
military.
In most every county probably has a bridge named after the Vietnam Memorial Bridge or something, because there's so many homeless veterans sleeping under their
Yeah.
home. A statistic is about 12% of the homeless are veterans, and of the homeless veterans, about 8% of them are female. That's a lot of people. And about 50% of all of those homeless have some type of debilitating PTSD or other disability.
Yeah,
So, and then self-medicating with alcohol or drug abuse
yeah.
is a way of trying to wash it away, but can't beat that.
Yeah, that's, it's a definite disorder that needs recognition, and just like any other illness.
In fact, the VA has a program that they have said that they want to end veteran homelessness by the end of 2015, which sounds like a pretty lofty goal, but I guess they have a plan in place, so I
Oh,
hope that'll
good.
happen.
Good. I hope it starts with recognizing PTSD.
Right.
Super. Well, there goes another wonderful episode of the Story Connection, and we really appreciate you coming on and talking about your story. It's very close to the heart, and it's something I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of men, women, and families can relate to.
Thank
and,
you.
I hope everybody checks out your book, reads your story, and looks for some help.
Yep, me too, thank you, and I hope that everybody will think of it.
Yeah, there you go. So thank you for joining us for another episode of The Story Connection. We hope you enjoyed it, and check us out. We're going to be out on the streets, and we'll be asking you, what's your story? So good night.